We begin in 1955, where Central City is under a dire threat.
Oh, heavens! My hair is so soft and so shiny, and so wonderfully easy to manage.
Make your hair look bright and clean when you shall...
It's 10 to midnight, Central City. And once again, your mayor refuses to take seriously my demand for $1 million.
Look, that's him, the ghost!
He calls himself the Ghost. He's wired bombs all over the city and says he'll detonate them at midnight. He believes television and video are the future, and he's out to control all of it so he can get rich. But he's too impatient to do it by jacking up advertising rates and getting rich gradually. He wants it all now.
Don't care how, I want it now.
But he's not going to give it thanks to another mysterious character.
Time has come for the Nightshade to drop in on the Ghost.
He's a Green Hornet type guy. His car is heavily armored and he has a pistol that shoots knockout darts.
Your show's canceled, Ghost.
Try Ghostess.
Sometimes I get down on these guys for not watching their backs, but I have to give him that one.
You should have stayed in Helltown frightening mobsters.
You're psychotic.
Well, one man's psychotic is another man's visionary. Video is the future. And I'm detonating the bombs with a television signal. Now, I don't want to blow up those buildings, but an ultimatum is an ultimatum.
Maybe you shouldn't blow up the hospital, Russell, honey.
Damn it, Belle, you can't let human sentimentality stand in the way of progress!
Too much TV, Ghost. You've got no attention span.
His machine jammed and short-circuited everything in the room, including the Ghost, I think.
What did you do?
But he's still in there!
No one could survive that fire.
Oh, Russell survived all right, but he won't have the courtesy to find a way to let her know it. That's a cryo chamber he's standing next to. He built it himself. He sets it to unfreeze him in 1999 and steps inside. Too bad for him, the machine somehow flips back to 1990, which is where he wakes up.
1990. A decade early. But still the future.
And buildings so decayed that pedestrians should be issued hard hats. People ask me why I live in this town. Don't touch that dial.
Make this the year you take the jump into large screen technology from Wacky Walter's Video Emporium. We've got them all. 178 channels, hi-fi surround sound, cable ready.
178 channels?
Found anywhere in Central City.
This is the future.
No, now that you're here, it's the present. For all his great smarts, he never learned how time works.
Look at this place, Julio. Akira 5700 computers, stacks of imaging systems. I'm telling you, compared to this place, we work in a cave.
Fascinating. Let me ask you something.
What?
What are you doing here?
What do you mean, what am I doing here? I'm returning Tina's computer. You know that.
No, I mean, what are you always doing here? I mean, as much time as you two spent together, you'd figure...
Just tell him, Barry. Talk it over with Tina and bring Julio into the loop. There's a lot he can do to help you be effective as the Flash.
Julio, do you have any women friends?
Yeah, I got Sabrina. She's my woman, and she's a friend.
And thank you for listening to Light FM. So would you get it through those matted locks that Tina and I are just...
Too incredibly stupid to see what's going on right in front of your faces.
What a surprise! Central City's finest.
Who's she been talking to?
She didn't say the finest what, Julio? Definitely not the finest memory, because Barry forgot to tell her they're all supposed to volunteer at a telethon tonight. Julio's girlfriend Sabrina put it together, and local celebrity Joe Klein is hosting.
On TV, it's not a very good idea.
Oh, come on, man. It's for a good cause. What are you, camera shy?
No,
Oh, come on, Barry. Call your mother, tell her you're going to be on TV.
You too?
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yes,
fun?
it'll be fun.
Yes,
oh,
it
fun.
will.
Yes, fun.
Fun.
Come on, three-letter word.
If you don't tell her, she'll never forgive you, and your dad will give you a good reaming. So just go with it.
This is how far TV's gotten? Reduced to a pinball game? I expected more. Much more. The monorails, the undersea cities, the moon colony. Where's my future?
Remember that thing that was going on in 1955 known as the Cold War? Yeah, that ate up a lot of it, and you're still looking at another year before it's over. He had a vision of the future that didn't take things like that into account. He could have just as easily awakened to a nuclear wasteland. For that matter, he could have not woken up at all because his bunker got irradiated or blown up. He should be grateful the worst thing that's happened so far is video games.
Killer, rack up, homie.
What? Excuse me?
That's a bad score.
Bad. I've already shattered the record.
Oh, no. Bad, like in good.
Oh, I see. Orwellian doublespeak, like in 1984.
Sure, let's go with that. He'll take those two guys on as henchmen, and then there's someone he needs to visit.
I'm too misty and too much in love.
Play Mr. Sandman.
You got it.
I cashed in my Christmas club. 35 years of compound interest will support me till the millennium.
Needless to say, she's having a hard time digesting this. He explains that his freezing chamber worked, and he's ready to pick up where he left off.
But failure now is impossible. I'm going to put a stranglehold on the city. The tools are here.
Back to work, Belle. I ain't paying you to pick up circus gigolos.
At last, technology has caught up with me.
He also wants to pick up where he left off with her. But to her, he's a child. She's literally old enough to be his grandmother. Even so, he has a spell over her. She'll go with him simply because after 35 years, she still loves him.
And not the world's got one who kneels. The record shows that I took the blow, and I did it my way.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd like to thank my partner, Tony Bello.
Yes, thank you, Officer Murphy. Thank you very much. Now we know why Central City's a jungle.
Bello isn't bad on the piano. We won't talk about Murph, and we won't talk about how rude Joe Klein is because we've already seen it. Once again, I have to say Richard Belzer was the perfect choice for that role.
Sabrina, you want some coffee?
Yeah, I'd love some. And take Julio with you, okay? Before his eyes pop out of his head like a couple of golf balls.
Right. Would you excuse me, please? Thank you. Julio, your woman and your friend strongly suggests you take a short coffee break.
Yeah, you know, Java sounds really good right now.
I thought so.
We meet Sabrina at last, and she isn't going to take some chick hitting on her man. Julio needs a woman and friend like that.
Right, thank you.
Listen, Tina, I can show you things you never dreamed of.
That's Dr. McGee, and I think I'd prefer to dream. Thank you. Hello?
Hello.
There's a difference between a dream and a nightmare, Joe.
Whoa! Finally gonna get to try out that magic act, huh, Lieutenant?
Better that than one more rendition of My Way. That reminds me, I need an assistant to saw in half. You available Monday?
Warren!
Gentlemen, our host, Dr. Desmond Powell, Chief of Staff, Central Hospital.
Jason Bernard had one of those faces you never forget. He was a successful character actor in movies and on TV, playing the soft-spoken guy who's nevertheless intimidating enough that you call him sir whether you need to or not. He had a lot more to give, but one day, right around the time he finished filming for Liar Liar with Jim Carrey, he was driving in his car and had a heart attack. He lost consciousness and rear-ended the car in front of him, but he never knew it. By the time workers arrived, he was gone. He was 56. That's it for the bad part. The good part is, I think you're going to like his role in this episode. Okay, that was just for fun. But the fun is interrupted.
This is a Telethon, Sparky. There's no cash here, only pledges.
I hate your show.
Look at that. There's something in Central City that everybody can agree on. The ghost comes on the screens and starts babbling about how he had to wait 35 years for technology and a bunch of other meaningless drivel. Garfield doesn't care what he's saying.
That million back in 55, Central City. I wouldn't hold such a grudge now.
How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Is this great TV for your pledge dollar or what?
Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go see makeup about some bruises.
Are you all right?
Yes, I'm fine.
I told you this telethon was a bad idea.
Okay.
Lieutenant, they made a clean getaway.
Yeah, with a whole truckload of equipment. You seen Dr. Powell?
No.
The ghost was bragging to Bell about how much money he has, but he can't just go out and buy the gear he needs. He prefers to have his goons steal it. This guy is a stereotype. And unless you're the guitarist for Stray Cats, that hairstyle went out with the 50s, kid.
Here I thought all this was behind me.
He needs to be done with it and let the Flash take over, because I doubt he's as agile as he was 35 years ago. But regardless of age, Nightshade will take to the streets again. We'll see that later. Right now, we need a little comedic relief.
Alan! Anything on that telethon takeover?
Well, Julio went through that control booth with a proverbial fine-tooth comb, but only prints he found belonged to station employees.
What's that, breakfast?
Yeah, it's my... Help yourself.
It's not like Barry will collapse into a quivering mass if he doesn't eat. Oh, wait. I've never heard of a lox and onion burrito before, and I admit I'm intrigued. I have no idea where I'd get one around here, but I'm intrigued. And to answer Garfield's question, they have nothing.
One. Good. How's the head?
Could be worse. Like that pound of buckshot you took out of me in '72. Remember that? What are you doing down here?
Last night, guy on the monitors, that was the ghost.
The ghost? Forget it. Couldn't be the same guy. He'd be in his 60s.
If Barry wasn't such a nice guy, he would have intercepted that burrito. Powell says, I don't know how he did it, but I'd know him anywhere. That was the ghost. Barry says, ghost of what? They explain about the ghost and his nemesis, Nightshade.
Well, how come I never heard of this guy?
Back then, the world wasn't on videotape. It was different.
But one thing hasn't changed. The police still don't need costume nuts interfering in an already impossible job. Right, Alan?
No, wait, this guy wore a mask, and he fought crime.
The police can't do everything. Some people thought of Nightshade as a hero.
Did they ever find out who he was?
He faded away, forgotten. I kind of wonder what sort of man would wear a mask.
What indeed? As he said, the police can only be so many places at once. But if a regular citizen takes to the streets and starts being effective, which Nightshade definitely was, the bad folks have lots of ways of getting to that person if they know who he is. Hence the need to conceal his face. He and the Flash will have a discussion about this later.
Come on. Just come right on.
Russell!
It really is you. Oh, it's wonderful to see you again, Skip. The years have been kind.
Skip was some kind of technician who helped him with his projects. He's really hoping Skip can bring him up to speed on all this new stuff.
What Belle told me, it's true. The cryogenic tank. Oh, I never thought you'd build a blasted thing.
All original parts, Skip.
You astound me like nobody's business.
There's so much for me to learn, though. Computers used to fill a room, not a briefcase.
Wait 10 years. These things will give you a stroke. Not to mention, in the 50s, what few computers there were ran on vacuum tubes and punch cards. Transistors were for cheap radios, not computing machines.
Now, the equipment I took from WCCN gives me complete pirate access, but that's no longer enough.
Well, everything is connected these days through data network. He who controls information traffic controls the system. So instead of using TV to detonate bombs,
TV is the bomb. By plugging into the system, I can bring the city to its knees.
Why is that the only way for it to make him rich? He's not just greedy, he's power drunk. As I said, he's a stereotype. He's an insecure little man who has to feel big and important by hurting other people. Thing is, it doesn't work. There's always somebody who doesn't submit, and that makes him feel small again. So he does something worse and worse. And it still never works. If you aren't secure within yourself, no amount of external forces will change it. Because the problem isn't external forces, the problem is you. If he had gotten therapy instead of turning to crime, he might have gotten as rich as he wants to be selling patents. But insecure little guys never think about doing it the right way. They always have to shove themselves onto other people who frankly don't want them around. Central City and the Ghost are a good example.
I don't have Nightshade to worry about. He's not dead, he's an old man now. No offense.
If they have any sense at all, they'll walk out on this punk right now.
But the Flash. Tell me about the Flash.
freak of nature. Moves like lightning. Psst. He's already busted a couple of mob outfits.
Yeah, nobody knows for sure just who or what he is.
Well, one thing is for certain. It's time to get the rest of the equipment we need and take the Flash out of the picture at the same time.
He doesn't realize that better minds than his have already tried, and they're either in prison or in the hospital. But there's always one guy who thinks he's the special one. The only real question here is, how many people is he going to hurt before the Flash takes him down?
And when even a charity telethon is not sacred. A broadcast studio is a temple of entertainment and information.
I mean, what is the world coming to? Think about it.
We interrupt this program for a special bulletin.
And there you go. Even an evil little guy like him can occasionally do a good thing for the city, like shutting Joe Klein off.
Tonight, at midnight, the Ghost welcomes his guest, the Flash, at Star Labs. We'll be live and direct. Don't you dare miss it.
He'll have another guest as well, because Nightshade will be there.
Be careful with that. It's Nakira 5700. Damage it and we'll have to bloody well raid the Kremlin for another.
Kremlins? You mean those cute little fuzzy dudes from the movie?
Tina needs to talk to the Star Labs people about their security, which is to say, maybe they should get some.
That's everything we need, Russell. Let's scram.
Another minute or two, Skip. I wouldn't want the Flash to think we've canceled his appearance.
Then on with the show, Ghost.
Why would one of their labs have that built in? It's a laser cone, and he set it to get smaller and smaller until it starts slicing pieces off. Now, all he has to do is time it right and slip between a couple of them, but I may be giving Barry too much credit for quick thinking.
My God! Nightshade? I hate reruns.
This time, Ghost, I'm putting you on ice for good.
Still using knockout darts?
He developed those darts himself. They act instantly and don't leave any harmful effects except waking up in jail.
Pretty soft for these hard times. By the way, who the hell are you? A colored guy. Who would have guessed?
Colored? You really are a relic.
You can bet if he had been around for the fuss over Brown v. Board of Education, he would have been a fanatical marcher for the wrong side. He'll leave Powell to bleed to death, as he says. No, I don't know how he did that without frying his arm off. He just did. Let's see to Dr. Powell.
Dr. Powell?
That look says, well, everybody's got to be somewhere.
My car, Gladstone bag, rear seat.
You're the doctor. What should I do?
It feels like a flesh wound. Hurts like hell. You dress it, bandage it, it should be okay.
The ghost thought he was going to bleed to death from that. Not only did he never get therapy, he never took a first aid course either. This kid is one fail after another.
Hey.
I'll get an ambulance.
No. It's all right. And thanks. It's nice to meet the man who picked up the torch.
Now go home and put yours away. Become his consultant. It's like sports players. Once a great player gets past their prime, what do they often do? Become coaches. They pass the torch. That's what Nightshade needs to do. Because if Skip was able to wing him like that, his reflexes are lacking at the very least.
Dr. Powell.
Alan, what are you doing here?
Well, I was driving by and I heard the alarm. A friend of mine works at Star Labs, so I... Whoa! Dr. Powell, there's blood on your hand.
Oh, it's nothing.
Well, that'll be the squad cars responding.
I can't let them find me here like this.
You're right, but look, I'll drive, okay? Where to?
I'll show you.
His hideaway is part workshop, part garage, and part souvenir room from his past cases. Tonight reinforced the idea that the operative word there is past.
Dr. Powell. What made you do it? Why'd you become the Nightshade?
Someone had to be. I came home from Korea. This town was being squeezed between the mob and a corrupt administration.
It's the Wyatt Earp dilemma. After the Cowboys murdered his brother Morgan and maimed Virgil, Wyatt tried to get justice through the proper channels. But there were always plenty of other cowboys ready to provide alibis for their pals. He couldn't get them through the law and the courts. He felt he had no other choice but to become a vigilante and seek his own justice. Today we call that the Vendetta Ride. It wasn't quite as extensive as we saw in Tombstone, but it wasn't quite as puny as what we saw in Kevin Costner's Wyatt Earp either. Newspapers recorded some of the killings, but newspapers of the day missed a lot. We'll never know how extensive that ride was. Just like we'll never know how much crime and corruption Nightshade saved Central City from when he took those guys down. After the ghost, he retired.
Why'd you put on a mask?
Oh, I was working outside the law. I was black. Nobody was going to give me any medals. Besides, I had to...
Protect your loved ones.
Yeah. You're pretty sharp, Alan.
He makes a good point. How many people would have accepted a black superhero in the 50s? Look at the ghost's response, a colored guy. For starters, Russell, look in a mirror. You're colored too. He's colored brown, you're colored pink. So what? But welcome to the 50s, Jim Crow, segregation, and all the rest. Dr. Powell lived it, both the character and the actor. Jason Bernard was born in 1936, so he went through all of it. Thankfully, he had the talent to push past it and succeed anyway. Dr. Powell had to hide his face and depend on his successes to gain the public's approval. And if they'd been able to see under the mask, it's possible even that wouldn't have been enough for some people.
How come I never heard of Nightshade?
I was good copy for a while. And I quit right after The Ghost. 35 years from now, who'll remember The Flash?
Well, I don't know. He's done a lot of good for the city, don't you think?
Yeah, but thank you. So did Nightshade. People forget.
Ouch, this is hitting a nerve. Barry isn't sure he likes this idea. But Powell is right, people do forget. Collectively, that is. The individuals that Nightshade rescued, not to mention the individuals the Flash has saved, they're the ones who remember. If he's looking for accolades that will continue decades after he hangs up the suit, he's doing this for the wrong reasons. If he manages to rescue one person so that they can finish out their natural lifetime, he's made a gigantic contribution to the world because every person matters. Seattle is in the middle of a war over homeless people right now, and the one thing the powers that be won't take into consideration is the fact that each of those people matters. Without one of them, the world is diminished. I've heard people swell up like toads in heat and say, well, what are they contributing to society? That's not the question. What are they contributing to the people around them? To the people who share their tent or sidewalk or wherever they have to sleep? Did they help another homeless person find food today? Then they both matter. We are all connected, and if you're one of the people who can't see that, we need to talk. Are you down on immigrants? It's nice to know you're so superior based on the accident of your birth. We're all connected to those folks too. Arrogance is destructive. Helping people because it's the right thing to do is its own reward, whether anybody else notices or not. That's the part Barry is having a little trouble with right now.
Tell me about the Ghost.
He used this crude form of two-way television. He could secretly make a set turn into a sort of camera, to case buildings for possible burglaries, to spy on people, to blackmail public officials.
It wouldn't occur to him to patent his two-way system and sell it as a video telephone. That would have made him more money than he could ever steal, but guys like him think they have to find some illegal way to get the money, even if it's not as efficient as the other way.
Finally, he planted bombs all over the city, rigged to detonate on a TV signal.
And held the city for ransom.
But I rigged this in '55. Jammed his transmission. I thought for good.
Nobody thought he could pull it off, not even his girlfriend. Nightshade can be excused for thinking the same thing.
Everything really is connected these days. From power, I can reach telephone. From there, the water system. One gigantic game, isn't it?
Do you want to go through with this? Actually wire yourself to that machine?
Absolutely.
This is crazy.
What's the matter, Belle? You okay?
Sure. Sure, I'm okay.
Except for being drunk, she's just fine. She thinks he's insane to want to do a lawnmower man. Although it might be more precise to say lawnmower man did a Russell the Ghost, because this came first.
I know what I'm doing, don't worry. I love you.
I love you too. I always have. But you just can't come walking into my life and still be 30. It just isn't fair.
Lois Nettleton is giving us everything she's got in this scene, and it's incredible to behold. I don't know how many actresses could pull off that complex bundle of emotions the way she did. She had a lifetime of practice. She started making up and acting out plays in her backyard as a small child. It was her way of escaping the reality of her parents' divorce and poverty. Eventually, she became a beauty queen and was a Miss America semifinalist, and things started getting better from there. She became a successful character actor, and some of us might remember her as Londo's wife Daguerre on Babylon 5, among other things. Right now, she's had enough of this. She's going back to lounge singing.
Should I get her, sir?
Time to enter the net. I want to flex a little. See what I can do with what we've just stolen.
And now we know where she sits on his priority scale.
Oh, boy. It's got to be those yahoos of water and power again, you know.
Yeah, we're lucky they shut down the nuclear plant last year.
Hey, you see this white glove? This means we're going to do this my way.
All these years, I never knew the key was just wearing the right accessories. Next thing we know, all the computers at the lab are showing old cartoons. Tina calls because hers are doing the same thing, as if she expects Barry to have any idea what's going on. Dr. Powell is visiting the lab, and he and Barry agree that this is the ghost.
These are just pranks. A warm-up. When he lets out all the stops, there's no way in hell the police will be able to stop him.
Well, you think he's capable of?
I saw his face. The man has stopped time, kept his youth. If he can do that...
I can't let you go out there.
This is my past hunting me. Now it's time for me to become the hunter. Can you understand that?
For God's sake, you could be killed. Now I know how Tina feels.
That took long enough. Now go tell her you finally understand. I crack myself up sometimes with these little absurdities. Powell decides Nightshade doesn't need the mask anymore. His double life cost him his fiancée, his family. Basically, the memories are all he has. So never mind. He'll be himself this time.
We're closed, pal.
You haven't changed a bit, Belle.
That voice. The Nightshade? Oh, sorry. I thought you were somebody else.
You were right the first time.
Oh, not again. Please, not you too. Just leave me alone.
Sorry, but since you're the one who knew him best, all his maps say he has to stop here next.
I really wish I could. You're probably the only one that can help me find the ghost.
Go away.
I need to ask you about him.
Out of my system. You're just a memory. Why couldn't he just stay that way?
I wish he had.
She's about to have a nervous breakdown. She explains that he wants to plug himself into the machinery, and he's back at the same place where Nightshade busted him before.
What, that old pile? It's been abandoned for years.
Yeah, it stayed abandoned because he owns the building.
I went there right after the fire and searched. There was nothing.
A hidden room. That's where he slept while I... it just isn't fair.
Unless he also had his own nuclear power plant, I'd like to know who kept paying the electric bill. 1955 didn't have auto pay.
Nightshade. What are you doing here?
Just watching your back.
What makes you think it needs watching? I was doing this before you were born.
Then why don't you show me how it's done?
Okay. The ghost is holed up in the old brewery on Shadow Lawn.
All right, now let's go down there and get him.
Slow down, Speedy. You gotta have a plan. Hop in.
No. Bad for the image.
Image is fine, but it's bad for the ability to discuss a plan when you do that.
If you're serious about plugging into the network, I can do the job. But you might be risking an electronic lobotomy here.
I didn't survive 3.5 decades in cold storage because I didn't know what I was doing. Now key me in, Skip.
Once upon a time, the body parts were discussing who was the most important. The brain said, well, obviously me, I control everything. The heart said, I'm most important because if I stop beating, there's nothing left of the brain. The eyes, hands, and several other parts insisted they were the most important. Then the rectum piped up and applied for the job. All the other parts laughed at him so hard, the rectum got embarrassed and closed up. Within 3 days, the brain was a massive fog, the heart was fluttering, and the eyes crossed. All the parts agreed that the rectum was the most important. That proves that you don't need to be a brain to be the boss. Any ass can do the job. Why did I tell that? Partly just because I like it, but also to point out that there's something Russell has forgotten about here, and that's bodily functions. What does he do if he needs to pee or poop? Is there a hole in the chair with a bucket underneath? If Skip or the others aren't around to serve him, how does he propose to eat? He's on some really short tethers there, so he's pretty well stuck in that chair. He's got crap loads of high voltage electricity coursing all through the place. What does he do if the building catches on fire? Anybody know a recipe for fricasseed ghost? He appears on every screen in the city and demands $1 billion ransom. If they don't pay, he has the power to shut everything down, wipe out all the city's records, you name it. Our villain's real name is Anthony Stark, with an E on the end of Stark so we can tell him apart from Iron Man. He hit the ground running as a character actor and had just come off a successful time playing Truman Lodge in the Bond film License to Kill. He's still at it and still satisfying audiences with his performances. I have to say, he's really convincing in this role. I really believe he is as fruity as a nutcake.
I'm telling you, Murph, this is worse than the blackout of '71.
Blackout of '71 was one of the best nights I ever spent in my life.
Oh, yeah? Let me guess. Motel room with Michelle.
No, that's pretty close. Actually, it was a stuck elevator with the Corelli twins.
The Corelli twins were guys, Murph.
I know. Two of the worst poker players you ever saw in your life. Honest to God. It's $2,600 one night. $2,600.
I was on the opposite coast, but I remember when the blackout of '71 happened. The official story is it happened because of an explosion at a Con Ed power facility. However, according to Quantum Leap, it happened because Sam Beckett plugged a hairdryer in at a certain place. There are those who think that may be fiction, but it's possible the official story was concocted to keep Sam's time travel project secret. Murph may have made a lot of money that night, but since there wasn't much else to do, a lot of other people made something else. According to some sources, about 9 months after the blackout, parts of New York experienced a minor baby boom.
Well, we can't just ram our way into the brewery and take the guy on. We don't know what the ghost has or what he's become.
You defeated him with this once before. Maybe it'll work again.
That's popular science 101 compared to what he's got now, what he is now. Anyway, it's broken.
I'll fix it. Give me an hour.
You mean give Tina an hour, but even she has to have some kind of power to work with.
Good job, Barry. Okay. So let's take this relic into the 90s.
As long as he maintains a steady supply of burritos, she'll have all the power she needs. Elsewhere, I guess Nightshade didn't feel like waiting.
You can't really expect that to work twice. The future belongs to the young. I can handle Nightshade myself. It's the Flash I'm concerned about. Make sure he doesn't get in here. I have a universe of microchip technology at my fingertips. But when it comes to disposing of old things, the old ways are still best.
The old ways works for me.
Okay, I may have been mistaken about Nightshade.
Welcome to my world where you, my friend, have no power whatsoever! Now, I could just wipe you away. First, you must sample my programming.
This is why he needs to listen to Powell. Barry has a bad habit of rushing in too quickly and not thinking about possible countermeasures the other guy might have. The ghost is pumping so much information into his head it's about to explode.
Tranquilizer darts. Nightshade.
That's right. Nightshade. At least I haven't lost it all.
I'm sure it helps that Skip is at least as old as you are and a geek, not a goon.
Don't touch that dial.
Remember that lobotomy Skip mentioned? There it is. Best we can tell, there's nobody left in there. The only good news for Russell is he'll live the rest of his life never remembering what he used to be or what he did to himself. And now he gets to live 35 extra years in that condition, which he also did to himself. I'm telling you, legitimate is the way to go. If he had patented his two-way system and sold it in the 50s, he wouldn't have needed to freeze himself or any of the rest of it because nobody would have been bothering him. And he would have been richer than Jeff Bezos ever thought of being.
Dr. Powell, I've learned a lot working with you.
Yeah? Well, the next time you need me for one of these little romps, forget about it. I'm retired.
He didn't call on you this time. You did it all yourself. But Powell wants to know something.
You ever reveal your secret to anyone?
I have someone I share it with. She helps keep me on an even course.
She? Good for you. But if you ever need anyone else to talk to, I'm here.
It does get difficult sometimes. Speaking behind a
No, don't. I don't need to know. And you don't need the complication.
It's enough that they're kindred spirits. It doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing, it's always nice to have one. That's another example of that impulsiveness that is still giving Barry trouble, and why he needs an old hand like Nightshade to help him see it. He's learned a lot, but he's only getting started. He still has encyclopedic volumes to learn. But now he has someone who's willing to help him do that.
You know, you ought to start your own trophy room. Allow me to donate the first exhibit. And remember, my fast friend, these outfits we wear are just another suit of clothes, not another man.
Another thing Barry is still working on learning. And for a second, that music had me thinking we were going to play What a Wonderful World. Too bad, it would have been a nice touch. I see skies of blue and seas of green in our yellow submarine. And I think to myself, wait, I think something's wrong.
Hey friends, I hope you're enjoying my look at the Flash. If you like it, remember to subscribe if you haven't already. If you really like it, consider becoming a patron. $2 a month gets you extra content like Hogan's Heroes and It's About Time. $5 a month gets you that and more, so take a look. The link is down there in the description. I also do lots of other stuff, so take a moment to look it over. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
He was a success. We need a little comedy. More money.